This extreme heat will cause a major change in your weather. In this video, we're going to talk about the major heat wave that is going to move from west to east across the United States this coming weekend into the July 4th weekend. We'll then talk about the weather for Tuesday, June 30th, and then eventually we'll get into the potential for a tropical development, but the chances remain low for that. I'll have the segments down below, so if you want to skip to that certain part of the video, go ahead and take advantage of that. Other than that, let's get into it. If you guys like the weather, please subscribe. Makes my day. First, we're going to take a look at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, and you can see from these dark reds, oranges here, we have a very likely chance that we're going to be dealing with above average temperatures throughout most of the U.S. this upcoming week and into next week even. The pattern is finally going to be setting in for that typical summer heat and even extreme heat, which will cause major heat waves and will cause strokes even to some people. It will be some of the hottest weather we've had in recent years. Could even be historic heat. You can see, look at the National Weather Service current hazards. All those in the Northeast, we have heat advisories and extreme heat warnings and watches out already. We have them into the whole entire Great Lakes region, and then again into the Midwest, Central U.S., extending down to the Southeast, and then even moving up into the Northeast. We have watches and warnings, and those watches will get turned into warnings as we move closer to Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, as those are going to be the hottest days as this heat continues to push eastward. And we'll actually go day by day here and look at the highs for each of these areas. So just find your area on the map, and then we'll talk about each day. So here we go. This is Tuesday, June 30th, and this is around 3 p.m., so the hottest part of the day. And you can see that we're dealing with down in Texas 102, and these are not feel likes, these are real temperatures. That's not crazy, anything crazy yet. You're used to down in the south hundreds, but getting up into the 90s, up into the Great Lakes even, and then the 90s, 80s, up into the Northeast. But like I said, the heat to come into the Northeast it's coming. And we continue to move this on to Wednesday. This is about 3 p.m., the hottest part of the day. And again, you can see we have hundreds moving to Texas, 90s across the whole entire south and extending up northward towards the Great Lakes region, and starting to heat up over here into Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, New Jersey, up into the 90s, upper 90s even. And then this is going to be your Thursday outlook. This is around, this is around 6 p.m. Again, you have those 90s extending all the way northward, and then you have reaching up to 100 over onto the East Coast, down into South Carolina, North Carolina, extending into Virginia, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland. Those regions are really starting to heat up here. And as we get into our Friday, that's when you have widespread hundreds here. You can see that into Texas, we're reaching up to 105, 104s there. Extending eastward up to 100 all up and down the East Coast. And like I said, guys, these are not feel likes. These are real temperatures. So the feel like in the heat index will more likely to be like 110, 109 in these regions, where like in Texas where it's 104. It's going to feel like 110 degrees with the humidity as well. It's going to be extremely hot. So make sure you're prepared for that. Stay inside if you possibly can. But then here is the 4th of July. How hot is it going to be? It's going to be hot just like the previous days. Again, you have this region of 105 down into Texas, and then hundreds. It cools down a little bit into the mountains of Virginia and into Pennsylvania, up into the Great Lakes. It kind of cools down a little bit, and then again, we kind of cool down as we move into next week. But that does not change the fact that tomorrow, or should I say today, the time of this uploading, Tuesday, we're going to have a chance for severe weather moving into the Great Lakes and Northwest and moving eastward. You can see in the highlighted yellow and then orange area right there, that is the most likely chance that we're going to have severe weather. These storms could bring damaging wind, hail, I believe, possibly even some tornadoes. Probably not tornadoes, but it's possible. Again, we're going to take a look at the model runs here, so you can kind of get a look at what is going to be expected. And you can see that low pressure moves over, and then it kind of brings that line of storms, and that's what the warnings are for. Line of severe storms will move eastward and then kind of dissipate after bringing some heavy rain. Nothing that you guys aren't too familiar with. It shouldn't be too bad. But then we're going to take a look at this, and this is what I think could really set up our pattern for the next, should I say, 5 or 6 days or so. So this is Tuesday, and then this is Wednesday. We're moving into Wednesday here. And this is going to set up our pattern for the 4th of July weekend, and I think it could remain pretty dry in the eastern U.S., which I think will be a good thing. People can enjoy their 4th of July. And you can see that the high pressure in the middle of your screen right there is sitting right over top of North Carolina. And that high pressure is going to kind of push all the moisture and all those storms kind of out of the way. That's why you're going to be dealing with this. You see this low pressure up here in the north. You're going to be dealing with some storms over there in the northwest, but over into the whole entire eastern U.S., Great Lakes, southeast, northeast region, that high pressure is going to sit there. You can see it sits there for multiple days and kind of just everything kind of goes north of it or south of it, and that's going to bring some dry weather to much of our eastern U.S. as we move into the 4th of July weekend. Last but not least, we're going to take a look at the chance for tropical development. And you can see right here, as this thing loads, I have the chances for tropical development pulled up with the National Weather Service. And you can see that yellow blob, it's actually going down. I don't think we'll have any development. You can see below 40%, but we're still going to cover it because there's still obviously that slim chance. So like I said, below 40% chance of development over the next 7 days. And if I take a look at the next 2 days, it drops to 10% chance. So definitely not very likely in the next 2 days, maybe over the next 7 days. And you take a look at one of the model runs for this, you can actually see that it does try to spin something up there. It's right here in this part of your screen. As I move this in motion, you're going to see a low pressure pop up and kind of spin. Some thunderstorms try to get organized, but then after it spins, it kind of gets hit with some wind shear and dissipates, and then that's pretty much all she wrote. I think that the active hurricane season, it will start to get active a little bit more as we head towards the middle of July and end of July. Other than that, guys, I'll see you in the next video.